Hi, I'm Peter Goodman. I'm the publisher of Stonebridge Press. I'd like to welcome you to our new series of YouTube videos on publishing. I'd like to introduce you to some of our books and our authors, how we kind of do what we do, and hope it'll be interesting for you. Today, we're talking with our author, Jing Liu, who has produced these 4 volumes called... they're under the general title of Understanding China Through Comics. And as you can see, they are basically graphic novels, and they depict all of Chinese history, at least most of Chinese history, from the years, 2697 BCE, all the way up to 1912, which is at the end of Volume 4. And there is actually a Volume 5 taking us up to modern times. That is in the works and should be published, we hope, sometime next year. So I'd like to welcome Jing Liu to our program. Welcome, Jing. Thanks for coming by.
Hi, Peter. Thank you. It's good to be here.
Great. Well, it's wonderful to have you. And congratulations on these 4 books. This was kind of a massive undertaking. And tell me a little bit, why did you decide to tell the history of China through graphic novel format?
Well, it's a long story. The Chinese history is very interesting, but it's very long. And for many general readers, it's easy for people to get lost in reading all the materials about Chinese history. So I wanted to make it more personal. And the format of a comic book make it more interesting to the general readers, I suppose. And on a personal note, I started this project about 10 years ago. That was when our son was born. I decided to give him a personal gift. So the book is my gift to our son.
Oh,
so
great.
That's how I started.
I hope he appreciates how much work you put into it.
He never really read it until recently. Yeah.
Well, good. So, were you an artist? Had you ever produced a comic book style or graphic novel style work before?
I graduated from the Beijing University of Technology. My first major is mechanical engineering, and the second one is international trade. So
doesn't sound very artistic.
Art is my long-term hobby. But after school, I started a graphic design company in Beijing. I've been running that company for 21 years. So that helped me a lot to use art as a way to communicate with people. And so from there, I developed my the artistic communication tool for the book.
And it's really a wonderful style you have. I hope people can see how detailed the pen work is here, and then inside there's just all these different drawings. Very different details. What's, I think, very distinctive about it is the layout, the way the information is presented. Every page is different. It wasn't done to a particular formula. I think you really had to think about each page, what it was you wanted to communicate, and then how are you going to represent it on the page itself. It's just wonderful to look at, wonderful to browse through. Did you, when you started out, like you say, 10 years ago, and you're still working on, do you feel your technique has changed, or have you kind of gotten better in your eye?
It did change. Because my first major is mechanical engineering, and it was before the computer age, we did all the mechanical drawings by pencil.
Oh, okay.
And that's how, you look at my books now, they're very detailed. because when we do the mechanical drawings, they're very detailed and very precise. That had some impact on me.
Well, that's interesting. So were you drawing by hand then? And are you still drawing by hand?
Computer software. There was no computer.
No computer.
Yeah, that was in 1990. So I got a chance to practice my drawing skill then. But over time, of course, especially for the comic book, there are many very abstract concepts.
Right.
How do you visualize that? And it's a challenge. And also because I have been running this graphic design company, and one of our job is to visualize abstract concept like marketing messages.
That's right.
Make them visualize them, make them understandable to people, and that also helped me a lot. So yeah, my technique did improve over time.
Are you working on a tablet, or are you still basically drawing by hand and then in some manner transferring it to the computer?
Now I do both.
You do?
Sometimes, I draw. I have sketches on paper. But most of the time, yes, I spend more of my time on the tablet.
Yeah.
I draw pad, yeah.
So, looking at, like you say, Chinese history is, thousands and thousands of years, and you've only got 4 books so far. You're leaving out an awful lot. How do you decide what to put in and what to leave out?
There's many different ways to look at history, right? And you can look at many books about Chinese history. They write about particular people, like emperors or ruling elites, and some books are about like historical battles, specific events. For my book, since it's kind of simplified, the framework and the kind of big picture of history, like to be more specific, this is a moving force behind history. What push history forward? Is that the elites, or there's something more? So in my book, I try to describe more about the circumstances for the historical events. For example, the geography and the social and economic, cultural forces behind the historical period. So whatever I could find to support, to let people see the circumstances, I'll keep. Other stuff, I had to make them shorter or just leave them out. So the idea is I try to use elements can reveal the bigger picture.
Well, it's very interesting because you've got some pages that are basically devoted to history and geography, the maps, so people know where they are. But you've got a lot of stories then about individuals, whether they're glorified people or just like generals. I assume that these are all very well-known personages in China, but most Americans or non-Chinese readers are probably not familiar with them. And I suppose it's the case where you don't really have to remember all their names, but just to get a sense of how an individual with a strong personality or just a weird circumstance is able to change the course of history, affecting millions of people.
When I use a story of an individual in this context, I try to use them as an example to show how individual can react to the circumstances, the cultural, economic, social forces, how they react to that, how this individual react to that, instead of, in a way, it's kind of, they don't really have a choice, even though it seems they made a decision that influenced many people. But if you look at this individual's circumstances, he doesn't really have a choice to make the decision he made. So if I have a story of an individual, it's also in the context of that circumstances.
Well, that's interesting. I mean, you're kind of suggesting that there's a certain inevitability to history, that people are forced into circumstances. And yet at the same time, if those individuals don't rise up to meet the occasion and take advantage of the opportunities given them, then nothing would happen. It's a kind of a mix of...
It's definitely a kind of a mix. Yeah, individual, they react. The way they react also make a difference too. Yes, we're not a prisoner of the circumstances.
Yeah,
we can act in a certain way. The general trend has to be there.
Right.
Individual can only react within that kind of scope. And if this person didn't rise up, will be someone similar rise up anyway.
Yeah.
So the general trend was still going forward, regardless that individual's choice.
Are you kind of suggesting that there's a destiny to China's history, or Americans, I think, tend to be very focused on their own history, and we tend to feel that we have some sort of destiny to be an exceptional and great nation, and of course that can breed a certain kind of indifference to the suffering of others and a certain kind of arrogance. And I would say that the United States is guilty of that sort of we are the greatest kind of thinking, and feeling like we are where we are because God wants us to be there. Did you feel that sort of same tendency in China, do you think?
In my understanding, I won't call it destiny because it sounds like an ending point. It's something already set. I think it's more of a direction. The history will move forward regardless, in a very zigzag ways.
Right.
And that's once the history past a certain point, it cannot go back. In that way, it's not a destination. This is a direction. The trend will go forward, and because some people always say that history will repeat itself, right?
Right.
In my opinion, it doesn't repeat. It always goes forward. It goes like it's always go up, go forward. And there's a lot of bad times. You look at the entire history from like a longer period, and you see. I think it's obvious to see the general trend is still going up.
Right. Well, and of course we're still watching it because history doesn't stop, and we actually don't know where the river's going. I know there's a famous proverb about you sit by the river and the river's the same, but the water keeps moving and nothing is the same in front of it. So
exactly.
It's a certain attitude you have towards looking at things. You'd have to say, of course, that the Chinese take the long view. I mean, because they have all this history.
It is, yes.
And I imagine, if anyone reads your book, you find that China, over these many thousands of years, it has not been a straight line. It's been up and down, all sorts of different forces coming into play, whether it's forces from within or geography, weather, barbarians invading from the outside, et cetera, et cetera. It's fascinating history. It's just amazing that you're able to get all this in just 4 volumes. You know, I do want to point out to everyone that if you stack them all up on the side, you get a little design on the spine, so you at least always keep your history in order, which is very important, of course. And Volume 5, I assume, is going to just fit right in here.
Yes, right now I'm working on Volume 5, yeah.
Right.
The previously, for the first 4 books, each book is about a couple hundred years. For the Volume 5, it's from 1912 to 1949, so this couple of decades. It gives me the opportunity to go deeper into the stories.
Yeah.
That will be very, it will be very interesting.
Well, sure. I mean, you had a lot happen. You had Japan coming in, then you had the war, you had the Civil War in China, and setting everything up for how China is today. It's going to be a fascinating story. I look forward to getting the manuscript and also to working with you on it, Jing.
Yes, I'm looking forward to that too.
Well, good. Well, thank you so much for being with us today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye. Take care.
All right. Bye.